Hi, it's Sherri from A Quilting Life, and I'm here today to share my Good Vibes quilt pattern with our Laguna Sunrise fabrics. This is one of my very favorite new quilt patterns. I love a good sawtooth star, especially one with a fun border that creates a little secondary pattern. I can't wait to share all about this new quilt with you, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm excited to share the Good Vibes quilt with you today. Funny story about the name for this quilt. This was actually one of the first quilts that I designed with this collection in mind. I could hardly wait to make it, but I couldn't come up with a name that I liked, and so I actually just had a name thrown out there on it just as a placeholder. But I knew I was going to change the name, and the day that I actually sat down and started sewing the blocks together, I was wearing a sweatshirt that had the words Good Vibes on it, and I just knew this was my Good Vibes quilt. So perfect name for a quilt pieced with Laguna Sunrise fabrics. Anyway, I love sawtooth stars. I love them every way they come, and I especially love them when they have fun borders around them. And I decided it would be really fun to just, kind of border all of the stars with the gray, but then have a second gray out in the corners and just kind of alternate the prints. So the centers for most of them are different than the star points. And then I've got the center repeated out here. Now, another fun fact about this quilt is I was getting really worried about getting all of my quilts done in time, and my friend Nancy offered to help with some of the sewing. And so I actually sent her the fabrics, and she pieced the blocks and then sent them back to me, the blocks, and then I put everything together in a quilt. And so that was kind of fun. So I've worked on this with my friend Nancy. She did a beautiful job on all of the blocks, and then I got to do the fun part, just set it together with the sashing and send it to the quilter and do the binding. The quilting is by Miriam Bott. This was a new pattern that she tried on this quilt, and love how it turned out. I'll show you. This is probably my favorite print in the collection, and wanted to use it for an outer border and just kind of see what kind of effect that would have on the quilt. And I also had fun using the orange for a binding. I don't often bind my quilts with orange, but it was so much fun. The backing is this. It really reminds me of a sand dollar made with little flowers. I love it. Such a fun print. And of course, when you use this for the backing, you can use anything for your binding on the front of the quilt, and it's going to look beautiful. So just a really fun mix. There's also these little secondary little 9 patches that kind of show up here where the blocks meet, which I love. And it's just a great pattern. It's really a good size quilt too. It's 80 inches by 80 inches. So really nice. It will look beautiful on a full-size bed. And it is a fat eighth quilt, so you will use 16 fat eighths for your blocks, and then you'll also need 1.25 yards of this gray accent, and then this other accent is just 3/8 of a yard. So background fabric, sashing, outer border, binding, and cornerstones. You can use the same fabric for your cornerstones that you use for your binding. I actually did it scrappy with leftovers from my fat eighths. So again, just a really fun pattern. It's a little bit bigger block than I usually do. I'm actually going to take one block and make it into a pillow, and that's the Good Vibes quilt. Okay, so that's it for the Good Vibes quilt with our Laguna Sunrise fabrics. Again, the patterns for this quilt and all of the other new quilts are available now in the shop in paper and PDF. And the fabric will be shipping to stores in September of 2024. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much for stopping by.